So recently there was new footage for Dark Souls 3 revealed. For the first time really, we got to see a new area and what I can only assume is a new boss as well. Now I'm totally aware of the spoiled little baby I'm sure I sound like with what I'm about to say, especially considering I'm sure there's tons of you out there who've been dying to even try Dark Souls 3, but for me personally, I seriously have spent over 25 hours playing the exact same area, known as the Wall of Lodolith at E3, which has since been changed to the High Wall of Lothric. So what I'm getting at is I'm a little sick of the same area. I'm dying to see some new stuff, and that's exactly what we're about to jump into. I'm going to show 2 new areas, new enemies, and a new boss, and talk about the possible lore implications as well. So turn back now if you don't want any Dark Souls 3 spoilers. Alright, let's get started. Initially, the first thing I noticed was just how much this new area reminded me visually of Bloodborne. The gravestones, large archway, and bare trees really had a Hemwick vibe to them. But what's really interesting is what's right past this archway here. These 2 new enemy types approaching the player look like pitchfork-wielding enemies of Bloodborne as well. Also, in a barrage on either side of the walkway, you can see spears jetting out of the ground. I absolutely love that part. The projectile blasts the ground and hurts both the player character and the enemies. And as the player is getting up, he looks around and he's just like, what the fuck was that? Now for veterans of the Souls series, this will without doubt remind anyone who's played Demon Souls of the flying manta rays from the Shrine of Storms. That being said, I just mean mechanically. I don't think the projectiles are from any type of flying creature. I think they're either spears from some type of ballista or actually arrows from a giant like Goth. Now after walking into the structure, we get to see the lighting effect from the torch, but only briefly as the clip moves on to the next area. Now this area is pretty great. We can see purple flowers covering the large open courtyard, and in the background there's some sort of chapel very reminiscent of the Undead Cathedral in Dark Souls, and there's also hollows praying to a large tree. What's also interesting about this scene is that the petals from the flowers are actually defying gravity and floating upward. I don't know what that means, but it's definitely something worth noting. Also, for the first time we get to see the Murakumo in action, the two-handed great curved sword. I'm not completely certain, but I do think that the spinning attack performed here is a new weapon art as well. I can't say for certain, but it's more than likely. Now obviously this is where the boss comes into play. I love that it's like Bloodborne, you can actually wander into a boss area without even knowing it. I want to talk about the potential lore implications here, but instead let's first discuss what's actually happening with the mechanics of the fight, and then I'll go back and talk about lore in a moment. So first off, obviously this thing is huge with a ton of limbs for attacking. Also there's remaining additional trash mobs, which I always feel is an extremely poor method of artificially enhancing the difficulty of any boss encounter. I think this is something that games suffer from, and even Souls, and especially Dark Souls 2, have suffered from in the past. Rom the vacuous stupid bitch-ass spider had extra mobs, Freya had them, and hell, even the only reason the Capra demon is remotely difficult is because of the extra hounds. The thing here though that differentiates this encounter from those is that it seems that this huge tree creature can actually damage the other enemies as well when it attacks. That element alone changes this encounter for me. It changes the mobs from some cheap difficulty crutch into an actual mechanic, much more reminiscent of the extra mobs from the Burnt Ivory King. In addition to the other trash mobs and normal attacks of the boss, it also seems to have some type of butt stomp which disperses what I can only assume is some type of corrosive AoE. Now also we know that Miyazaki stated that every boss will have more than one phase which will change the boss's moveset or mechanics at varied health intervals. We saw this often in Bloodborne's bosses, and it was even present in Dark Souls 3 during the stress test. The Dancer of the Frigid Valley would pull out a second weapon and change her moveset at half health. Well, here too, we can see this happens. I mean, just holy shit, what the hell is that thing? So, not only does this crazy arm burst from the chest of the tree, but the hand slams down and completely alters the environment of the fight by sending you both plummeting to a damp cavern below. It's pretty awesome. I love the idea of events happening during a fight which change the venue or mechanics of a boss. Alright, so let's back up and talk about the potential significance of this boss. To me, this creature has large implications to the lore of Dark Souls. For one, we know Miyazaki stated that Dark Souls 3 is the furthest state that the world has ever been to complete decay. Also, in the cinematic trailer, we can see these hunchback creatures trekking across a dust-filled wasteland. From Dark Souls 2, we know that giants were almost acting like seeds. Upon death, they would petrify and turn into trees over time. Now, we also know there seems to be 3 different ages in the cycle of the universe. Each of these ages has distinct characteristics. The Age of Ancients has fog, ash, dragons, and arch trees. Now to me, the boss here almost looks like the Gaping Dragon, but much like the giants of Dark Souls 2, seems to obviously be taking on some sort of tree form. Additionally, this would explain why in Dark Souls 3 we see undead praying to both trees and dragons on the high wall of Lotharic. I believe these elements of a strong theme of ash, trees, and dragons are strong suggestions that the Age of Fire and Dark are long past, and that the state of the cycle of the universe is on the brink of pushing back around on itself, back to the Age of Ancients. Also, and this is just wild speculation, but the arm popping out of the tree makes me think there was more to the arch trees in the first Age of Ancients than we originally suspected. Initially, we believed that the witches burned the arch trees because they were the homes and shelter for the dragons. But what if there's more to it than the witches were just being dicks by burning their houses? Perhaps the trees themselves are sentient, or arch trees act like cocoons of a sort in the larval state of a maturing ancient dragon. Maybe the creature inside the tree is a dragon. The arm does look like it could potentially be an arm like Seath the Scaleless. And this would make much more sense to why they felt the need to destroy the arch trees to end the Age of Ancients. Alright, so that's my take on this new footage shown. What are your guys' initial thoughts from a lore perspective? What do you think about the theories I presented here? And finally, I'd like to know what you guys think about this crazy new boss and area in general. I think it looks pretty awesome, and I'm definitely happy to see something new. Alright guys, that's about it for what's new on Dark Souls 3. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. It really does help with searchability and the success of videos here on YouTube, and it helped me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. And last but definitely not least, I'll try to keep you posted on the latest news and features regarding Dark Souls 3 as they develop. That being said, From Software is holding their cards very close to their chest on this one, even more so than usual. Anyway, subscribe for more Dark Souls content, don't hesitate to check out my other stuff, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Meaning weapon strikes, attack, moveset combinations, the kick, the parry, the repost, the backstab, running, rolling, plunging attack all feel exactly like they're ripped from Dark Souls 1.
You ask me, freedom's all—
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing, Preston! Elizabeth was labeled by Guinness World Records as the most prolific female serial killer in history.